I never thought a simple favor after the gym would turn into one of the most awkward and unexpectedly electric moments of my week. It all started on a random Thursday evening, the kind where you're just minding your own business, counting down reps, and getting through your workout, when something totally unplanned throws you off balance. So I'm at my usual spot, the gym downtown where I've been going for a couple of years now. It's nothing fancy, just a solid place with decent equipment, and a handful of regulars I recognize. One of those is Lucas. I'd seen him around before, always catching my eye, because, well, he's just easy to look at. Tall, lean in that effortless way, with this messy brown hair that's like he's just rolled out of bed but somehow looks good anyway. We never really talked much, just the usual nods and what's up as we passed each other. This night, though, Lucas seemed a little off. He came up to me after I was finishing up my last set on the bench press, and he had that kind of half smile that made me guess something was on his mind. He asked me if he could use the shower in my apartment. Turns out he forgot his gym's locker code and didn't want to deal with the hassle of waiting around or going home without cleaning up. I figured, no big deal. My place was literally a 5-minute walk from here, and I'm not the type to say no to helping someone out, especially when it's just a quick shower. He followed me back, all casual and easygoing, like this was something that happened every day. I grabbed some towels, pointed him to the bathroom, and told him to take his time. I was just gonna chill in the living room, scroll through my phone, maybe crank some music, no big deal. But then, about 10 minutes later, I noticed the bathroom door was open a crack. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe he was just airing out the place or forgot to close it fully. Then I heard the sound of water running again. That's when my curiosity got the better of me. I peeked in just a little, and that's when I realized he hadn't put his clothes back on. Lucas was just standing there under the shower, water streaming down, completely bare. I froze for a second, caught between wanting to say something and trying not to make it weird. I mean, I didn't even know if he expected me to come in or what. It was one of those moments where your brain scrambles, and you're like, is this normal? Should I say something? Should I just leave? But honestly, I couldn't look away. There was something about the way the light hit his skin, mixed with the steam and the quiet hum of the water, that made the whole scene feel different. Like this was more than just some guy using my shower after the gym. Suddenly, the air between us felt charged, and I had no idea how we'd get through the next few minutes without something slipping out, whether it was words, glances, or something else. I stepped back, closed the door gently, and tried to play it cool. But inside, my brain was doing backflips. How did a favor like this turn into something so damn complicated? And more importantly, what was I supposed to do now? I told myself to chill, to treat it like it was nothing, because really, this was just some guy taking a shower at my place. No big deal, but my heart was doing this weird flip-flop thing that I wasn't used to feeling around anyone, let alone a total stranger I barely talked to. I settled on the couch and tried to scroll through my phone again, but it somehow felt meaningless, like my brain was stuck on what was happening in that bathroom. That's when Lucas finally stepped out. He grabbed a towel and wrapped it around his waist, still wet, and I realized how close he was to me in the small hallway. The air felt thick, and I caught myself staring a little too long, which made me quickly look away and clear my throat. Typical me. Thanks for letting me crash here, he said, voice low and a little breathless, like maybe he was still catching himself from the shower, or maybe something else entirely. No problem, I said. It's on the way, so it's easy. He gave me a lopsided grin that made my gut twist. I owe you one, I shrugged, trying to play it cool. If you want, I guess you could return the favor sometime. He laughed softly, shaking his head. I don't know what kind of favor that would be. There was a pause, and then he took a step closer, still holding the towel around him. I'm Lucas, by the way. We've seen each other around for a while, but I realized I never actually got your name. Matt, I said. Nice to officially meet you. The way he said it, like he was really looking at me for the first time, made my chest tighten. And, honestly, I was a little embarrassed how easy it was to feel nervous around him. I mean, I'm not some awkward newbie in the dating scene. I've dated before, had my share of flings and good times, but Lucas was different. There was something calm and confident about him that threw me off balance. So we stood there for a moment, just kind of sizing each other up, and then the silence got too heavy. He cleared his throat and said, I probably should get dressed. Don't want to be that guy who overstays his welcome. Yeah, probably, I said, trying not to sound like I wished he'd stay a little longer. He ducked back into the bathroom to grab his clothes, and I heard the shower running again, which was weird, but okay. When he finally came out, fully dressed, I noticed the way his hair was still damp, and I had this sudden urge to ask if he wanted to grab a drink or something. Maybe it was the way the night had shifted, or the fact that he seemed easy to talk to despite the awkward start. Hey, I said, if you're not doing anything, I was thinking of ordering some food. Want in? Lucas looked surprised, but smiled. Yeah, sure, I'm starving. We ended up sitting on my couch, ordering pizza and just chatting like old friends. It was weird how quickly the conversation flowed, like we'd known each other for years, instead of just crossing paths at the gym. He told me about his job. He's a graphic designer who freelances mostly, which explained the flexible hours, and I shared a bit about my work in marketing. Nothing earth-shattering, but it felt easy, like we were both comfortable just being ourselves. At some point, we got to talking about gym routines, and he joked about how he always manages to forget his locker code, which was why he needed my shower in the first place. I laughed, told him I sometimes forget my headphones and have to borrow beats from random people. We both agreed that the gym was one of those weird places where everyone kind of knows each other, but no one really talks. As the night wore on, the space between us shrank. It wasn't like we were touching or anything, but there was this quiet understanding. Like we both wanted something, maybe not even fully formed yet, but it was there, hovering in the room. When the pizza arrived, Lucas grabbed a slice and took a big bite, and I caught him looking at me for a second. Not in a creepy way, just like he was considering something. Maybe he was wondering if I felt the same spark I did. I felt brave for a moment, so I asked, "So what made you decide to ask me for my shower?" I mean, we don't really know each other, he shrugged, cheeks flushing a little. Honestly, you look like a safe bet. Cool vibe. And maybe I was hoping I'd get to talk to you. That hit me harder than I expected. I wasn't sure if I should laugh or say something cheesy, so I just smiled instead. Well, you picked the right guy. Lucas grinned, and there was this moment where everything slowed down. The room felt warmer, the city noises outside faded, and I realized I was genuinely excited to see where this could go. Because sometimes the best stuff happens when you least expect it, like letting a guy use your shower after the gym, and suddenly the whole night changes. I glanced at the clock and saw it was already past midnight. Neither of us seemed in a rush to leave. I was starting to think that maybe Lucas wasn't just some random guy who forgot his locker code. Maybe he was the kind of person who could turn a simple favor into something a lot more meaningful. And just like that, I knew I wasn't going to forget this night anytime soon. After a while, the pizza box was empty, and we'd both moved from the couch to the floor, leaning against it like we'd known each other far longer than a couple of hours. Lucas had this way of talking that was easy, but not just small talk. He asked about my family, my favorite movies, random stuff that somehow made me want to open up. I caught myself telling him things I hadn't even realized I was thinking about lately. At some point, Lucas said, "You ever feel like you're just going through the motions? Like the gym, work, friends, it's all fine, but there's this itch you can't scratch?" I nodded, surprised at how much that question hit home. Yeah, totally. I think that's why I stick to my routines. Feel safe, predictable. But sometimes, I wonder if I'm missing out on something. He looked at me then, with this quiet intensity that made me wonder if he felt the same. Maybe that's why I asked to use your shower. Not just because I forgot the code, but because something about you felt different. That made my heart speed up. I wasn't sure what different meant, but the way he said it was like he was admitting maybe he wanted more than just a shower. We sat there in silence for a moment, the kind of silence that's not awkward, but loaded with meaning. I felt a cool breeze from the slightly open window and realized I hadn't even noticed the time passing. It was well past midnight and the city outside was quieting down. "So," I said, trying to sound casual but feeling a bit nervous, "you want to watch a movie or something? I've got that new sci-fi thing you mentioned." Lucas's eyes lit up. "Yeah, that'd be perfect." I got up to grab the remote, and when I turned back, he was just watching me like he was trying to figure something out. I smiled, maybe a little too knowingly, and sat back down next to him. The movie started, but honestly, I wasn't paying much attention. Lucas was sitting closer than before, his shoulder brushing against mine. I could smell the faint scent of his shampoo mixed with the lingering gym sweat. It was oddly comforting and exciting at the same time. Halfway through, he shifted so that we were practically leaning into each other. I glanced over, and he caught me looking. His eyes held a mix of curiosity and something softer, something like hope. "Can I be honest?" he asked quietly. "Always." I said. He paused, like trying to find the right words. "I don't usually do this kind of thing, like show up at someone's place, hang out late. But with you, it feels easy. Like I want to see where this goes without any of the usual BS." I swallowed hard and nodded. "Yeah, me too. It's rare to meet someone who just gets it." We stayed like that for a while, the movie playing in the background but forgotten. Then Lucas turned toward me and, without breaking eye contact, leaned in just a little. My heart was pounding so loud, I was sure he could hear it. Just as our lips were about to meet, my phone buzzed on the floor. I jumped, breaking the moment awkwardly. Lucas laughed softly, shaking his head. "Bad timing," I muttered, checking the screen. It was a text from my roommate reminding me about something at work tomorrow. I groaned, feeling the weight of reality crashing back. Lucas smiled and squeezed my hand. "Guess we're not done yet." I grinned back, feeling more alive than I had in weeks. "Definitely not." The rest of the night slipped by with easy conversation and a few shy touches. When he finally left, we didn't make any grand promises or awkward goodbyes. Just a simple "see you at the gym." But as I closed the door behind him, I knew something had changed. That night wasn't just about a favor or a forgotten locker code. It was the start of something I hadn't been looking for, but couldn't wait to explore. And honestly, that's the best kind of surprise. The next morning, I woke up with this weird mix of excitement and nerves buzzing in my chest, which was honestly something I wasn't used to feeling before a casual gym day. Usually it was just coffee, headphones, and trying not to get caught staring at anyone. But now, with Lucas in my head, everything felt a little more electric. I checked my phone, half expecting a message from him, but nothing yet. That was okay. I wasn't sure what to say anyway. "Hey, thanks for the shower and the pizza. Want to be my boyfriend?" Didn't seem like the smoothest opener. I told myself to keep it casual and just see where things went. At the gym, I spotted him almost immediately. He was doing pull-ups, muscles flexing in a way that made me realize I was way too distracted. When he saw me, he smiled that same easy smile, and I felt my stomach do a flip. After my set, I walked over, and we ended up chatting by the water fountain. There's this comfortable rhythm between us now. Like the night before, it shifted something fundamental. No awkwardness, just a shared understanding. So, I said, "You gonna forget your locker code more often? I'm happy to keep letting you use my shower." Lucas laughed. "Might have to. You're not half bad company." We both knew there was more to it. This wasn't just about gym favors anymore. Over the next few weeks, we started hanging out more. Sometimes after workouts, sometimes just grabbing coffee, or going for walks. Each time felt like peeling back another layer, revealing more about each other. One chilly evening, we found ourselves sitting on a park bench, bundled up against the cold, but talking like it was the middle of July. Lucas told me about his childhood, about the small town he grew up in, and how moving to the city was both scary and freeing. I shared some stories too, things I usually kept to myself. There was a moment when he looked at me with this softness that made my breath catch. "I'm really glad I asked to use your shower that night," he said quietly. "Me too," I admitted. It's funny how something so random can change everything. Our hands brushed, and without thinking, I reached over and took his. He didn't pull away. Instead, he squeezed gently. That simple touch said more than words ever could. But then reality crept in. What were we actually doing? I wasn't sure if Lucas was looking for something serious or just a distraction. And me? I hadn't been single long enough to know if I was ready for something real or just the comfort of company. One night, after a late dinner at my place, Lucas stayed over. We were lying on the couch, the TV playing some forgettable show, but the silence between us was charged. I turned to him and asked, "What do you want from this? From us?" He looked at me, eyes searching. I want to take a chance. I don't want to rush or force anything, but I want to see where this goes. With you, that hit me hard. I realized I felt the same way. We'd started as gym acquaintances, turned into friends, and now something more was hanging in the air. Tentative, fragile, but real. I leaned in, and this time, there was no phone buzzing or moment breaking us apart. Our lips met, slow and sure, like we were both finally admitting what we'd been feeling all along. From that night on, things shifted again. We weren't just hanging out or sharing showers. We were exploring what it meant to be together, learning each other's quirks, and navigating the messy, beautiful parts of starting something new. There were awkward moments, sure, like when I met his ex unexpectedly at a coffee shop, or when I realized I was jealous for the first time. But there was also laughter, support, and this incredible feeling of being seen. Looking back, I still can't believe it started with a simple favor, a guy needing a shower because he forgot his locker code. But sometimes life throws you those unexpected moments, and if you're lucky, you step through the door and find something far better than you ever imagined. Now, whenever I think about that night, I smile, because it reminds me that taking chances, even on strangers at the gym, can lead to the best stories. And maybe, just maybe, to love. Things with Lucas settled into this comfortable rhythm that I didn't realize I'd been craving until it was there. We weren't one of those Insta couples plastering their faces all over social media, but we had this easy, low-key vibe that felt genuine. I liked that. It felt real. But, of course, nothing stays simple for long. One afternoon, about a month after that first night, Lucas texted me asking if I wanted to grab lunch after the gym. I was halfway through a set of deadlifts when I saw the message. I felt this rush of something. Excitement, maybe? Or nerves? Probably both. After wrapping up, I met him at the smoothie bar nearby. He was already there, leaning against the counter, sipping on some green concoction, looking effortlessly good in his loose black hoodie and joggers. The kind of casual look that somehow makes you wonder what's underneath. We walked to this little taco place I'd been meaning to check out, and as we waited for our food, the conversation drifted into that familiar territory, talking about work, family, and the usual everyday stuff. But this time, it felt like there were these undercurrents beneath our words. Like we were both testing the waters, seeing how far we could let ourselves be open. So, Lucas said, twirling a tortilla chip between his fingers, "Have you thought about us? Like what this is turning into?" I felt my stomach tighten. I wasn't sure if I was ready for the conversation, but I appreciated that he brought it up. "Yeah, I have. I like where things are going. It feels different, less like a fling and more like something real." He nodded, eyes focused on me. "Same here. I'm not great at jumping into things fast, but with you it feels natural, like I'm not pretending or holding back." There it was again, that vulnerability that made me want to reach out and just hold him close. But instead I smiled and said, "I guess we're figuring it out as we go." Lucas laughed softly. "Yeah, no rule book or anything." That afternoon, we took a long walk through the park nearby, the kind of walk where the cold air makes your breath visible, and you don't even care because you're too caught up in the company. We talked about our favorite music, the dumbest things we'd done as kids, and the weird quirks we had. I learned he was obsessed with old horror movies, and he learned I had a secret talent for baking, which he promised to try one day. We paused near a bench and Lucas pulled off his gloves, fingers brushing against mine. "Hey, I know it's early, but would you want to come over this weekend? I mean, for dinner. Maybe watch some of those movies I mentioned." My heart jumped. I'd like that. The days leading up to that weekend were weirdly tense in a way I wasn't used to. I found myself thinking about what to wear, what to say, how to act. Silly stuff, but it meant something because I wanted to impress him but also just be myself. When Saturday finally came, I showed up at his apartment with a bottle of wine and some homemade brownies because, yeah, I went full cliche. Lucas opened the door wearing an apron, a big goofy grin lighting up his face. "You brought dessert?" he said, mock surprised. "I did," I said, "and I promise it's not burnt." We spent most of the evening cooking in his tiny kitchen, bumping into each other and laughing when we accidentally dropped things. The movies came on later, but we barely made it through the first one before the conversation took over again, deeper this time about past heartbreaks and hopes for the future. At one point, he reached out and brushed a strand of hair from my forehead. "I'm glad we're here. I don't want to rush, but I also don't want to wait forever." I looked into his eyes and realized I felt the same way. Me neither. That night when I left, we stood outside his door for longer than necessary, neither of us quite ready to say goodbye. Then he surprised me by pulling me in for a kiss, not hesitant or shy, but confident and full of everything that had been building between us. From that moment on, things accelerated in the best possible way. We started spending weekends together, introducing each other to friends, and sharing parts of our lives we'd kept private for too long. There were awkward moments, sure, like when I accidentally called him by my ex's name. Yeah, don't ask. But those only made us laugh and learn more about each other. One night, as we lay tangled up on the couch, Lucas turned to me and said, "I wasn't looking for this when I asked to use your shower that night, but I'm so glad it happened." I smiled back, feeling all the weight of everything we'd been building. Me too. Sometimes the weirdest, most random moments end up being the start of something incredible. Like letting a guy use your shower after the gym and finding out he's the one you never saw coming. After that night at Lucas's place, things kept getting better, but also somehow more complicated. Not in a bad way. More like when you're starting something real, and all the parts don't quite fit together yet, but you're willing to keep trying because it feels worth it. A few weeks went by, and we settled into this groove where we were seeing each other almost every day, whether it was post-gym smoothies, dinner dates, or just hanging out watching terrible reality TV and making sarcastic comments. I was learning about him in ways that made me feel lucky. His terrible habit of leaving his socks everywhere, how he made this ridiculous face when he was concentrating, and the way he held my hand like he never wanted to let go. One afternoon, though, things got a little tense. We were at the gym, finishing up our workouts, when Lucas's phone buzzed with a message that made his smile fade just a bit. I asked if everything was okay, and he hesitated before saying, "It's my ex. She wants to talk." I could tell this wasn't something he wanted to deal with, and I didn't want to push. "Do you want me to wait here, or—" "No, I think I need to handle it," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I'll catch up with you later?" I nodded, trying to hide the weird pang in my chest. I knew exes were a part of the package sometimes, but it still stung. I went back to my stuff, pretending to focus on my workout, but my mind was elsewhere, wondering what that conversation would bring. Later that night, Lucas came over, looking tired and a little worn down. We sat on the couch, and after a while, he just sighed and said, "She's moving away." Wanted to tie up loose ends, I guess. I reached over and took his hand, squeezing it gently. "Thanks for telling me." He looked at me, eyes softer than usual. "I'm glad you're here." Moments like that made me realize how much I cared for him. Not just the fun, light stuff, but the messy, complicated parts too. A few days after, we were at my place, cooking dinner together. I was chopping veggies, and he was making this ridiculous attempt at salsa dancing in the kitchen, making me laugh despite my clumsy knife skills. Then, out of nowhere, he stopped, looked serious, and said, "Matt, I want to meet your friends." Like, officially. I blinked, surprised. "Really? Are you sure?" He nodded. "Yeah, I want people to know you're important to me. And I want to be part of your life like that." It hit me harder than I expected. I'd been hesitant about mixing my dating life with my social circle, mostly because of past experiences where things got messy. But Lucas made it feel right. So, a couple of weekends later, I invited him to a small get-together at my apartment. My friends were casual, fun, and not the judgmental type, but I was still nervous about how Lucas would fit in. To my relief, he slid right in, chatting easily and even making a few jokes that had everyone laughing. I caught him looking at me across the room a few times, and each time, my chest warmed with this quiet happiness. After the party wound down, we stayed behind, sitting on the balcony with city lights twinkling below. Lucas took my hand and said, "Thank you for inviting me tonight. It means a lot." I smiled, leaning into him. "I'm glad you came." That night we talked for hours about everything. The past, the future, fears, dreams. It was the kind of conversation that makes you realize how rare it is to find someone who wants to share the real parts of themselves. Not everything was perfect, of course. There were days when I caught myself overthinking things, wondering if I was moving too fast or if Lucas felt the same. But every time those doubts crept in, I'd remind myself that this, whatever this was, felt right. One morning, we woke up tangled in each other's arms, sunlight spilling through the blinds. Lucas looked at me, eyes sleepy and soft, and said, "I think I'm falling for you." I smiled, heart racing. "I think I'm already there." We kissed like it mattered, like we'd been waiting for that moment without knowing it. Looking back, I still can't believe how a simple favor, a shower after the gym, led to this. But maybe that's just how life works sometimes. You open your door to a stranger, and suddenly, you're opening your heart too. A few months after that morning, when Lucas whispered those 3 words, things had settled into a place that felt both new and familiar. A space where we could be ourselves, without pretense or fear. It wasn't always perfect, of course. There were still moments when I'd catch myself worrying about the future or overanalyzing a text, but those moments got fewer and farther between, replaced by something steadier. One chilly evening, we found ourselves back at the gym, finishing up a routine that had become our unofficial ritual. As usual, we joked about our terrible workout fails and compared notes on what music pumped us up best. Then, as I was wiping down the bench, Lucas caught my eye and grinned. "You want to grab dinner? Somewhere that's not a smoothie bar or a taco joint?" he teased. I laughed. "Yeah, I think I'm ready for a new adventure." We walked out together, hands brushing, until finally Lucas slipped his fingers into mine. It felt natural, like the missing piece of a puzzle snapping into place. For a moment, the city's noise faded, and all that mattered was the quiet connection between us. Later, over burgers and fries at a small diner, we talked about dreams we hadn't shared before, places we wanted to visit, things we wanted to try. There was a softness to his gaze, a quiet confidence that made me feel seen in ways I hadn't expected. As we left, the cold air wrapped around us, but Lucas pulled me close, and I didn't want to let go. Standing under the streetlight, he looked down at me and said, "I'm really glad I asked to use your shower that night. It changed everything." I smiled, heart swelling. "Me too. Sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected moments." We leaned in, sharing a kiss that was gentle but full of promise. No grand declarations, no haste, just 2 people choosing to be together, one day at a time. Walking home, hand in hand, I thought about how strange and wonderful life could be, how a simple act of kindness had opened the door to something real and meaningful, and how, sometimes, all it takes is a little courage to let someone in. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the heater. It was the kind of warmth that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be, with someone who makes the ordinary feel extraordinary, and for me, that was enough.